Superman has always been more than just a superhero. He's a symbol, an ideal, a cinematic benchmark. And for nearly half a century, filmmakers have been chasing one of the character's most deceptively difficult traits, the power of flight. From Richard Donner's groundbreaking 1978 Superman, the movie, to James Gunn's upcoming 2025 reboot, the challenge remains the same: making audiences believe a man can fly. As James Gunn's Superman approaches its July 11th release, expectations are sky-high. With David Corenswet donning the cape and serving as the cornerstone of a freshly rebooted DC universe, the film doesn't just need to succeed, it needs to soar. And ironically, that flight, both literal and symbolic, is the very hurdle that once reduced Richard Donner to tears. You'll believe a man can fly. The legacy begins in 1978. When Donner took on Superman, the movie, the goal wasn't simply to bring a comic book character to life. It was to sell the illusion of flight in an era that lacked today's digital luxuries. The now iconic tagline, "You'll believe a man can fly," wasn't just a marketing gimmick, it was a promise. But that promise was hard-won. In a retrospective interview, Donner recalled the painstaking process of trying to make flight believable. Without CGI, everything relied on practical effects and ingenuity. Early attempts, like actors laying on boards with fans blowing in their faces, looked laughably unconvincing. It took nearly a year and the brilliance of cinematographer Dennis Koop to bring Superman's flight to life using the innovative Zoptic system. The system allowed a synchronized background to recede while the camera zoomed in on Christopher Reeve, creating the illusion of forward motion. When the first successful screen test came through, Donner remembers the room falling silent and then breaking into tears. It wasn't just about special effects. It was about finally proving that Superman could exist on screen in a way that felt real. From wires to wows, the evolution of Superman's flight. Since Donner's breakthrough, Superman's flight has evolved with the times. In 2013's Man of Steel, director Zack Snyder modernized the technique using a mix of practical wirework and digital environments. Henry Cavill was suspended on gimbals while CG backdrops recreated sweeping skies and explosive takeoffs. The flight scenes, especially Superman's first triumphant launch, were bolstered by Hans Zimmer's epic score, creating moments that felt more visceral and powerful than ever before. The technological advances since the 70s made it easier to bring Superman's flight to life, even on television. Shows like Superman and Lois managed to replicate credible flying sequences on a fraction of the budget. What once took an entire year to accomplish now takes a few days with green screens and post-production wizardry. Yet despite the ease, the soul of the flight remains difficult to capture. Enter James Gunn, a new Superman, a familiar challenge. Now it's James Gunn's turn. As the architect of the new DCU, Gunn is not only rebooting Superman, he's tasked with redefining him for a new generation. The character's flight, once again, stands as a cinematic challenge and an emotional metaphor. Gunn isn't relying solely on digital effects. His approach blends practical and CG elements, much like Snyder's, but with a distinctive twist: real-world environments digitally integrated into the final shots. By filming actual landscapes and inserting them in post-production, Gunn hopes to ground Superman's flight in a visual reality that audiences can intuitively connect with. Even more intriguing is Gunn's use of drone technology. Drones allow the camera to follow Superman mid-flight in ways traditional rigs and cranes never could. Sweeping aerial maneuvers, fast-paced chases, and complex mid-air choreography are now within reach and could elevate Superman's flight to an entirely new cinematic level. A burden of belief. Flight as the soul of Superman. Flight is more than a superpower. It's the essence of Superman's mythos. It represents freedom, hope, and ascension. That's why it has always mattered so much, and why Donner's emotional reaction in 1978 still echoes through the halls of superhero cinema today. James Gunn understands this. He knows that, while visual realism is important, what truly matters is how the audience feels when Superman takes to the skies. Does it inspire? Does it uplift? Does it still make us believe? The answer, nearly 50 years after Donner's tears, is still up in the air.